Hi, and welcome to Random Rogers Big Picture for the week of January 28th, 2007. The first month's almost over. How about that? This week, only one thing on the agenda, and that is patience. Patience as it pertains to investing. Investing in long-term themes, short-term themes, short-term trades. Patience is a crucial word. I'll give you a couple examples of what I mean by this. This was something that came up in a post or a comment that was left on a post, a reader asking about bond substitutes because he thought that yield spreads were a little too narrow. And he's got some high yield bonds that are coming due. Well, he's right that his spreads are historically narrow. And typically, that means that they're expensive. So you don't buy high usually. I mean, there's a thing about buying low and selling high. So trying to avoid buying high, this guy is going to hold off on that part of the market. Whether he's right or wrong, it's his opinion, and that's the thing that's important. And relative to how you manage your account, this is a crucial topic. Personally, for me with bonds, the market I don't feel is rewarding for going out any kind of length at all on the curve, intermediate or longer term. You're not rewarded because yields are lower than going out 1 year. So to me that doesn't make sense. So the thing to do in that situation is to just wait, however long it takes. At some point, intermediate term rates or longer term rates will be higher than where they are now. And this is an assumption that the curve will normalize at some point and that intermediate term yields will drift closer to a historical level of where they usually are. I posted during the week this might mean 6.5% or 7%, maybe. I'd be thrilled at 7%, maybe it means 6%, but at some point the yield curve will reward you for going further out. It'll also reward you for taking a little more risk, be it corporates or convertibles, which are also corporates, foreign, emerging, so on and so on. That's just how the market works. And in the meantime, you just need to wait. However long that takes, buying the wrong bond at the wrong part of the cycle, is a bad idea. As how this pertains to patience, that is, pertains to intermediate. Okay, over the course of the next year, let's say you assemble a very, this is just for example's sake, a simplified portfolio where you have one holding to represent each of the sectors. And to make it even simpler, instead of any common stocks, you use some sort of sector fund. Again, one for each sector. One of them is going to be the worst performing and one of them is going to be the best. Makes no sense if, let's just say, tech turns out to be the worst performer this year, selling it just because it's the worst performer. That doesn't make sense. At some point, technology is going to provide leadership to the market. I don't know when. Maybe it's now, maybe it's not. Not really important in the context of this conversation. The point here is not giving up on something just because it lagged. That is, very rarely is that a good idea. First of all, you're making a big bet when you go to zero on something. The other thing is that often last year's laggard is this year's leader, and it leads for no reason at all. It just happens. So you kind of need to be patient as far as that go and know that, whatever is bringing your portfolio down will have its day in the sun. And this differentiates from a common stock. Occasionally, a common stock does not fulfill its role as a proxy for whatever, materials or what have you, industrials. And in that case, it does need to go. That's kind of a bottom-up bit of work as opposed to top-down. You need to be patient within the portfolio. Those are kind of two different things, and hopefully you can grasp the distinction. Another type of patience that needs to be exerted in a portfolio is, occasionally when you do some sort of shorter-term trade. On the blog, I disclosed a position in Kaupthing Bank. I bought this a long, long time ago when I first started writing about Iceland, the Stockholm listing of Kaupthing Bank. I got a nice trade on it, or a lucky trade last spring. I sold it, and I just went back in a couple of weeks ago or so. So I went, 6 or 7 months without owning the stock. I continued to watch it. I did not buy back in at the low. I did not, I could have bought back higher, I got what I hope will turn out to be a good price after, patiently waiting and thinking that I was getting a good price. In this instance, it turned out to be, quite a few months. Just because I sold it back in the spring doesn't mean it should have been bought a month later. I bought back in at 84 kroners. It's up a little bit. So that's always good, but who knows what will happen. The key point here is that I was willing to wait, and that type of patience, I think, will serve you well more often than not. You might be saying, well, I'm contradicting myself because of the DBA purchase. Too early to know if that is a contradiction. If it blows up in my face next week, then yeah, that will be turned out to have been dumb, or turned out to have been, better yet, impatient. How about that? But that goes with the territory. You can't be perfect. Sometimes the best entry point is a few days later. Sometimes it's a couple of years later. It's just whenever it comes, and you need to be prepared to wait. If after selling that DBA, if it just rallied up in my face another 2 or 3 points or whatever, I wouldn't have bought back in. It's just one of those things where it came back down, and I'm up a dime now, so I'm not right or wrong yet. There's just no way to know. We'll see what happens. This is a subtle point that I'm talking about here with this. You don't read about it very often, I don't think, and you don't see it discussed much on TV or on interviews on the web or whatever, but it's a crucial thing. Things over longer periods of time, more often than not, tend to work out. They may not work out as well as you would hope, or they may not work out as well as they should, which is a different topic, but things do tend to work out. And if you get an itchy trigger too soon, if you buy something, let's say you buy a consumer stock, and for the first month the consumer sector goes down, and your stock naturally participates, well, selling that consumer stock probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Hopefully I'm saying that in a way that makes sense to you. Well, that's about it. This is kind of a tough thing to talk about, so this video probably is not turning out as well as I would have hoped for, but that's okay if you can remember that over the longer term, you need to be patient. You need to be prepared to wait for as long as it takes for something to be attractive again, and in the meantime, you just need to bide your time. Like with the fixed income stuff, I'm biding my time in short-term treasuries a little heavier than normal. You're getting 5% for a year or so. For now, that makes sense. When you can get 6, 7, 8%, if 8% ever comes back in the fixed income market, great. When that comes back, we'll take it if we have to go further out. But for now, no, we're not going out 10 years to get 4.8%. Doesn't make sense. Very important point. Hopefully, if nothing else, that will resonate with you. Have a good weekend.